start the day talking about trash, kind of where we left off last week. And I also wrote a piece today calling on the city council to get involved, take a leadership role in this whole thing. The way things have been left to us here is we are under the understanding that if ABC is forced to comply with the contract that it has with the city of New Bedford, that it can probably sustain for about another year. And then Mike Camara tells us he would have to get out of the business of collecting trash and, expand his business in a different direction. Okay, so in about a year, we would be looking at getting a new contractor. Okay, Camara tells us he wants to end his contract with the city and get out of it. Unless the city is willing to pay about $45,000 additional money each month to help pay for the increasing cost of the recyclables. All right, so that would be about $500,000 for the city of New Bedford. The problem is we don't have $500,000 laying around, so that would be very difficult. So if that is the case, I don't know where the money would come from. So if ABC was to withdraw, or the city of New Bedford walk away from the contract with ABC, then that means we got to hire a new vendor, which means it's going to cost us more money because we are going to have to begin negotiating at today's standard, not the standard of 5 years ago when ABC negotiated a contract with New Bedford and we signed a deal, at today's standards, plus the fact that any new vendor who might want to sit down and talk to us knows that we're pretty much up against the wall. So they're going to have an advantage on us there. So it's going to cost us considerably more than what we're paying ABC right now. So again, if we stick with ABC and say, okay, fine, we'll give you the extra $45,000 a month, that's about another $500,000 per year we got to come up with. If ABC walks away or we walk away, we got to get a new contractor, and that's going to mean significantly more money for us there. So where do we come up with the money? Well, the options are a tax increase, substantially cutting the budget to allow for this, or maybe an enterprise account, creating an enterprise account whereby the trash collection part of DPI would become self-sustaining and would send out bills perhaps to residents for trash collection, a trash collection fee, or we could go pay as you throw. Or again, all the way back to the beginning, the city just absorbed the cost, which means we'd have to come up with some money from somewhere, maybe a tax increase. So the city council is being called on by me and others to get involved in this show. You take a leadership role and try to figure out where we go from here. City Councillor Brian Gomes, who's been on the council forever, is with me on the line right now. He is actually filing a motion for Thursday night's meeting to try to come to some kind of a conclusion with all of this. Councillor Gomes, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
So what do you got? What are you filing for Thursday night, Brian?
Thursday night, I'm filing a motion, and this doesn't come on the heels of anyone making the request to me. This comes on the heels of watching the issue as I have for the past few months, a year or whatever, was that as I see this thing moving along, I see it somewhat getting out of hand and getting out of hand on maybe both sides, and it's time for someone to be a mediator or someone to come in between and try to get everybody together. This problem arises because of the recyclables not being taken by China. Now, this issue is not new to this council. I've been involved with ABC for some time, and we've been discussing this. I'm not going to mention any other councilors. I'll speak on my own behalf. This issue has been being discussed with us for several months now, going way back to the beginning of the year, and needed to be addressed. And it just seems like it's getting into that tug-of-war type of situation where I don't think it should be. This is no fault of the cities. This is no fault of ABC's. This is the fault of how this structure had been put in place, who is taking our recyclables and who is now not going to take the recyclables. And it's a very simple matter. You don't need to be a brain scientist to figure this all out.
Yeah.
China's not taking the loads anymore. They're not taking contaminated loads, and we got to do a little better of making sure that our stuff is clean. But at the same time, that we as a city have an obligation to make sure that that trash and those recyclables are picked up. This was all implemented. This is my first rodeo with trash. I get on the city council when we still have a city picking up trash here in the city of New Bedford, and I was one of the people on the city council who was very adamant about keeping the city picking up the trash at the time before ABC came along. I have to put my hats off to ABC, Mike Camara, his mom, and the rest of the family on the job that has been done since they have started picking up the trash in the city of New Bedford. We've got a cleaner atmosphere. We've got everything that has been dealt with on appropriately. And ABC has been also a good friend to the city of New Bedford. Again, I don't like to see what is happening right now, and that's why I filed the motion. And the motion was filed about 8:30, 8:45 this morning, long before
I didn't mean
else.
to, Council, I didn't mean to imply that your motion in any way was a reaction to anything that we've said here over the last couple of days. This has been an issue that's been going on. I mean, we've known since May now that ABC was having a problem with the recyclable
stuff. That, Barry.
All right. So you probably had more knowledge than we have. So we're reacting to what you guys know. So so here we are, though. We've got a situation where ABC, Mike Camara is on the radio with me on Thursday and Friday of last week. I think it was Thursday. And he says, Barry, look, if we have to go with the contract as written that we signed 5 years ago, we can't sustain beyond another year. We just won't be able to do it anymore. The mayor says we're not going to give them any more money. So ABC says, well, then we need to get out of the contract. So the mayor says, well, we want to get out of the contract too. So one way or another, this is going to cost us money. If we got to give ABC another, they estimate about $45,000 a month. That comes out to about $500,000. And if the mayor does walk away from this contract, we got to go out and find another contractor. It's going to cost us a hell of a lot more to negotiate at this point, no? So somewhere down the road, this is going to cost us more money.
You are exactly right, but there's no doubt that's why I'm following what I am Thursday night, because I think we got to cool everybody's heads down a little. We got to get people together and address this issue. There's more. Trash is always an important issue in any city, and how you deal with it, where it goes, when it's taken away. But we've got some pending, more important issues to deal with as far as the city is concerned, for us to get into a tug of war or argumentative response on both sides, going back and forth on which to be done. That's why I'm following Thursday night's motion. I'm hoping to bring all parties to the table as soon as possible in appointments and briefings. If we have to go into executive session, we do. But we come to some conclusion on how we're going to deal with this. This is not anything the city did. This is not anything ABC did. And I don't think ABC is trying to steal from the city, and I don't think, I would hope that we don't want to take anything from ABC, but at the same time, they have done a good job here in the city, and respectively, that has to be respected. And you keep hearing that from your constituency across the city on how it's done. To bring another hauler in here would only be detrimental to the city, and I don't believe could be any cheaper than what we're getting right now. This is falling on our laps.
It certainly wouldn't be, because they would negotiate under today's circumstances, and they have us kind of against the wall at this point. So
that's right, and so it's kind of foolish for anybody to be even talking about another hauler coming in here and picking up the garbage and the recyclables. What we should be doing is sitting down and getting this taken care of in some way, some form, so that it's in the affirmative for the city and ABC at the same time. And I understand the concerns of the mayor and the city of New Bedford about added costs, but at the same time, this wasn't something that ABC or I think the city was looking for. It's been laid on our laps, and we must deal with it. And we're better than that, and we've got a company that's better than that. We all come together and deal with it.
You vote on the budget every year, Brian, and you go through that budget like a fine-tooth comb to try to see where this money to be saved. Do we have another $500,000 in that budget that we can find in order to support the request for $45,000 in additional monies for that process of picking up the recyclables?
There's never any extra money around, but if we kind of look into the budget, we look at maybe some some surplus monies in different accounts or whatever, we may possibly be able to come up with this money. One way or the other, someone has to come up with a solution to this whole problem, and we shouldn't be beating this issue up the way it's been beat up, because we knew about it and we knew it was going to happen. I asked Ari Sky several months ago, maybe a couple of months ago, as we ran into each other in the hall. I asked him to ask the mayor to tread very lightly with this thing. ABC has been a good trash collector in the city. He provides a lot of jobs. Has been a friend to many organizations across the city. If you know anything about the Camara family, and I was a critic of this, I have to say that publicly in the beginning. I did not want to switch over to some private hauler. I wanted to protect those jobs that were in the city. Since then, seeing what has transpired, it's been in the affirmative for the city of New Bedford. And again, we should just deal with it. And I'm sure that we can find money somewhere. It's not the money that we wanted to be putting there, because I'd rather put money to 2 more police officers or to fix another 3 streets in the city of New Bedford. It is in deteriorating condition, but good leadership steps up and takes care of business that arises such as this has, and we need to deal with it.
You know, I feel like I'm missing something here in this debate. And I mean, you're a little bit more informed of all of this stuff than I am. So I'm just wondering what is missing here, because everything seems so logical. It seems so logical that the administration would want to sit down with ABC, because as you and I just discussed, if we go with somebody else, it's going to cost us a fortune more. We'll have a local company that will no longer be, employing all of these people, and it'll deal them a blow and all of these different things. It seems if we're going to pay more money anyway, why not pay that money, and probably a lot less more money, to ABC than getting a new contract? I don't understand why that doesn't make logical sense to the administration.
I don't understand it either, but there's been, this major discussion about seeing books and, looking to take some money from us. I don't think that's the case and scenario. And as a public entity and part of the city, and everything is public with these people, but again, this is something that has fallen on them. They brought it to our attention. This was brought to my attention early this year, and we sat down on several meetings. And I speak for myself. I won't speak for my other colleagues. I'll let them do that themselves. But this was brought to our attention, and we were well aware that there was a problem in China, and it was causing not only the city of New Bedford a problem, this entire country, as far as recyclables and the recyclables that China was taking, and of course, with no hesitant before it started off addressing the contamination or not wanting to receive it as it always has. And we should have been well aware in this country that this is a possibility that may have happened. And we should have been looking probably into alternatives for our recyclables. You read magazines, you see different stories, everything from these plastics and stuff to being formed into some type of road surface or whatever. I would like to see some of that being looked at. But again, as I said when I began speaking to you today, we'll try to bring everyone together in appointments and briefings and be that mediating entity to get people to sit down and let's just solve the solution. We're better than this, and we've got more important issues for us to address that are going on in this city.
It seems to me, though, this is just a symptom of a much bigger problem here with the trash. And we were talking with Tom Kennedy about this, your former colleague, last week. It took, I don't even remember how many years, and I think you were on the council for at least part of this when the Crapo Hill was designated, right? It took, what, 10 years, 15 years to get that designation? It would
That's right. I was here with Rosemary Tanning. Rosemary Tanning's administration is the one that addresses Crapo Hill.
So, I mean, why at that time did we not start maybe with a standing council committee or a special council committee already looking for the next thing? Because we know that Crapo Hill is going to be, it's only temporary, because eventually that's going to fill up. We're going to be looking for our next thing. Shouldn't we at this point already be looking at what's next?
It's like anything else. When Crapo Hill was implemented and it went into service or whatever, we had gotten over that hurdle of running out of space in the old dump, and now we have a new place, and we're going to start the recycle program and all that. I don't think, and it's not to take away anything from any, you're not thinking that far ahead. You're dealing with what is put before you right now. It's told that this lifespan will be 20 to 25 years, maybe 30 years. How fast time flies when we're having fun, huh?
Absolutely,
How fast time flies.
Yeah, sure it does. So, I mean, for years now, the state has been pressuring all of the communities, not just New Bedford, but everybody, to reduce the amount of trash that it puts in its landfill. Part of the way to do that would be through recycling. Now we find out nobody wants the damn recyclables anymore, so we got to figure out what the hell we're going to do with that. I know some communities put trash on a train or on a truck and ship it to another community up upstate New York or whatever, they're not going to want to buy trash from anybody forever either. So, I mean, it seems at some point we need either some legislation that backs off of local communities, you know, in terms of their tonnage that they're dumping at their landfills, and come up with some solutions. I know Taunton was looking at a regional incinerator some years back, and the Patrick administration wouldn't permit it, and I guess that's gone by the wayside now. But it seems to be that rather than extending the lives of these landfills, we need to come up with some more permanent solutions. Do you think there should be a special council committee or a standing committee that deals with all these issues at this point, so we can plan for the future?
Again, it's something that we can look into, and anytime you implement something like that, looking at the future, it's always good for the people that are served and the services rendered. We, as a city, as a commonwealth, as a country, as we went into this recyclable thing, it was, remember, we started off with just the blue bins on the ground. Now we're into the orange barrels because it kept everything contained. Nothing would be blowing around. I think the major problem here is that the recyclables are not being taken as they were. And also, technology has not come up with an alternative for many of these plastics and these recyclables, that we can turn it into something that can be beneficial to our country. As I said, I've seen stories about resurfacing progress, such as mixing with the asphalt and stuff like that, making roads out of it, other things. And you would hope that technology is looking at that. But like everything else, remember, it's all about the dollar. And the dollar comes first, and then the real good idea comes second. And when it's in the affirmative of the people who control the dollar control our destiny sometimes. I hope you understood what I just said.
I did.
Meaning that there may be the technology right now to take these recyclables and move them all, but the dollar figure is standing in the way of that, and people will make as much money as they possibly can, just like well, I don't want to mix apples with oranges, but the opiate problem that we have in this city, this country, they let it happen because of the dollar.
Let me just, before I let you go, Councillor Gomes, just for our understanding, everybody's understanding, you've got a motion coming up on Thursday night that you've introduced. What exactly would your motion do?
My motion will actually bring all parties concerned. I'm sorry about what you're hearing in the background, but my motion would bring all parties together, from our city solicitor to the mayor's office to the city council, to work on a solution to resolve this problem so that ABC can continue to do the good job that they have done in the city of New Bedford. We can continue to be, as a city, be a clean city, doing what we have to do, recycling in the right process, putting the right stuff in the cans and in the garbage. I want to say this too also. If this turns into a mess, that it is, you're going to find that people are just going to stop recycling. They're going to throw everything into the garbage. Now we've got another problem. The landfill's filling up faster than everything else that we wanted to happen.
All right, Councillor Brian Gomes, as always, appreciate your time on short notice. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day.
All right, City Councilor Brian Gomes. So what do you think? Councillor Gomes wants to get everybody together. He thinks there is a way to find the money within the city to be able to pay ABC what ABC is asking for, which is about another $45,000. Gomes seems to think that there's money in the budget that can be found in order to satisfy ABC and be able to keep them on the job here. So what do you think? 508-996-0500. Let me take the first break. We'll come back and chat with you after this at 1420 WBSM.